again, and welcome to the Author Roundup. This special segment of the Book Connection Show showcases emerging indie authors who join us for a discussion of their newly published books. Join us for a conversation with our next guest author. Hello, welcome to the podcast. If you're new here, I'm Emma, your host for this episode featuring author Cynthia Dewindt. She is an author with a unique path. While many know her for her beautifully illustrated children's books, each offering entertainment and thoughtful life lessons inspired by her family experiences, Cynthia has now ventured into a powerful new genre with her memoir and wellness book, Ain't You Tired? How I Escaped Hell to Happiness. Based in Brooklyn, Cynthia's mission is to inspire masses to find their own happiness. Hi, Cynthia. Thank you for being here.
Hello, Miss Emma. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm glad to be here.
Good. Yeah, we're glad to have you. I'm excited to learn more about you and your book. So your book was published this year and within a couple months, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And can you tell us
Published a
about
few
it?
months ago.
Okay.
Well, Ain't You Tired is my memoir, and I share my journey of how I transitioned from what I consider to be hell-like events and emotions to finding a place of peace and
Mhm.
joy with the hope of helping others to achieve the same. So essentially, it's about breaking the cycle of decades of self sabotaging,
Mm.
making poor decisions, and
Mhm.
sacrificing for everyone else. So,
Mhm.
Ain't You Tired is for people who are ready to say, I am done being tired.
Yeah. For maybe, would you say this book might be for like people pleasers or someone that puts others first and maybe not themselves first entirely?
Well, not, it doesn't have to be, it falls under that umbrella,
Okay.
but necessarily,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
people who lack information about how to love themselves, that have self-awareness and self-love
Hmm.
and to be content. And
Yeah.
people pleasing can fall under that umbrella.
Okay. Okay. And so your story does go beyond storytelling. It offers actionable insights from your own, lived experiences. What inspired you to turn your personal story into a guide for others?
Well, that's pretty funny how it all happened. See, years ago I was on Facebook, right? And very unimpressed by what I was seeing, because if I'm looking at something, I want to be entertained or learning something. So I started writing these stories on Facebook. And my
Oh.
daughter said, who's an adult, she said, Mom, nobody wants to go to Facebook to look at this. So I just ignored her. But then a couple of weeks later, another family member said, Cynthia, you need to take these stories off Facebook and write yourself a book. So I
Mm.
said, good idea. Right. So that's how I was inspired to write the book. So
Okay.
my inspiration comes from the fact that I know what it's like to go through some horrible things and feel alone. I
Hmm.
know what it's like to feel like you're merely existing just to suffer
Hmm.
and be an onlooker at other people's success and happiness.
Hmm.
So even back then, it was compelling for me to share my journey and help others to see that, no matter what your past trauma was or what you're currently going through now,
Hmm.
you too can go from hell to happiness by applying some practical tools. That's I line out the blueprint is right there and Ain't You Tired? And whatever your current situation is, you can achieve that goal.
Okay. And so a little bit about the challenges you faced. You mentioned in your book you faced challenges like poverty and abuse and homelessness. When you look back, what was the turning point that made you decide to change your life's direction?
Well, it happened in stages,
Okay.
actually. So it wasn't like one particular point. So
Okay.
there's been some Ain't You Tired moments in my life, right? But the the pivotal point, I guess, is when, well, this is not in the book, but
Really?
I was dating a man,
Hmm.
okay, and I found out that he was using drugs, and that's a deal breaker for me, right?
Mhm.
And so I broke up with him. And because of loneliness, desperately lonely, and not knowing how to cope with life, I decided to get back with this person who at the time moved to Canada. So after talking for months on the phone, we decided, okay, we're going to get married, etc., etc. So I moved to Canada. And the day I moved there, he went to work. Okay. And when he came home from work, this is the same day, Miss Emma. When he came home, I was sleeping and I heard noise in the living room. He was dancing with a woman, slow dancing. So I stood there and I was in shock. And when I snapped out of it, I said, what's going on here? Now, keep in mind, the backstory is I gave up my apartment, all
Yeah.
my furniture, everything to move to Canada to be with this person. I said, what's going on here? And you know what he said? He said, excuse us, go back in the room.
Excuse me.
Yes. This is not in the book,
Oh
by the
my
way.
gosh. Wow. We're
So
getting
that's
a
when I knew, that's when I knew that, you know what? My way of thinking, my way of doing things is
mhm,
not working.
mhm.
My what makes me make the decisions that I was making was based on fear
Yeah.
and pain
Mhm.
because I was desperately lonely. I didn't even love this man. It didn't hurt me to see
Mhm.
him with another woman. It hurt me that I gave up everything to be with him. So
Mhm.
that's when I knew that was a pivoting point for me. Like something's got to change.
Mhm.
I'm on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Now I'm on the other side of it. I have no
Yeah.
hard feelings toward him. I wish him well. And
He's not your person.
thank you.
What and so what motivated you? So once you were past or had that pivotal moment that we talked about, what motivated you to keep pushing forward and to keep your life on this path of success and positivity?
Well, in that moment, I realized my way doesn't work. And I said, okay, I need to step back and I need a moral compass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I need to ask myself the hard questions. So I really started, it was trial and error.
Yeah.
It was listening to thought leaders and allowing advice from people that I respect to resonate with me. And
Mm.
so here I am.
Okay. And so many readers will relate to the feelings that you describe, like of rejection and despair and the desire for a better
Mm-hmm.
life. How did you begin to rebuild your self-worth during some low moments?
Well, a lot of this is the blueprint to that. A lot is mentioned in Ain't You Tired? How I Escaped Hell to Happiness. But what I will say for anyone who is in the middle of something right now, some type
Mhm.
of hardship or trauma, my advice would be to recognize it and then redirect. Okay, recognize, say, listen, I'm feeling this particular thing right now. That's the acknowledgement. And then to in order to for immediate, because sometimes we have a momentum, right? So when we're thinking about something bad, then it adds on and adds on and adds. So think about something that's going to put you in a, I call it your happy place.
Mm-hmm.
Think about something that's going to make you feel good,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you don't have to lie to yourself. That's not necessary. So listen, I'm feeling this particular way, but I'd rather feel another way. What's
Mm-hmm.
going to make me feel good? What can I think about that's going to make me feel good? And think
Mm-hmm.
about that. And once you think about that, then you can think about something else similar or whatever makes you feel good. So that's just something that they can immediately do to give them
Mm-hmm.
some relief without side effects.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, when you were going through, some difficult times, did you have people and like an inner circle to lean on when you in these times of need?
Did I have an inner circle? Not that I was aware of,
That's
because
tough.
I didn't know it at the time,
Yeah.
right? But what I know for sure right now, that no matter what I've been through or whatever a person is currently going through right now, they're not alone in that struggle. There is a tribe out there who's been through the same thing. Now, it may be unique to that particular person because it's them. They're the ones who are experiencing the problem, but you can find your tribe. So there's nothing new under the sun. So whatever you're feeling, whatever you've been through, no matter how embarrassing it is, or how painful it is, or how unique you think it is, there are other people who've experienced the same thing.
Mhm.
You just got to reach out and find those people. So your
Mhm.
question was, did I have a circle? I don't believe at the time I did because, like I said before, I went through some horrible things and I felt
Yeah.
like I was alone. And sometimes you can feel alone and not necessarily be alone. It's just that
Yeah.
other people don't know what's going on with you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you started out
Mhm.
um, posting your stories and your
Mhm.
writings on Facebook. So kind of like a journal, like you were feeling, these feelings are a certain way and you were journaling. Is that kind of, did that help you? Like writing, your thoughts and feelings out, not necessarily like on Facebook, just, but like in general, like journaling?
I recommend journaling,
Yeah.
but it wasn't necessarily my thing per se. So
Okay.
what I was doing on Facebook is, like I said, I just felt compelled to want to
Yeah.
help people and to show them, like, look, it doesn't have to be like this. You could do this, you could do that, and you could do the other. So that was pretty much it. But I will say this: whenever I reach a certain point in my life where I was struggling with something, that's when I would begin to write. Now, I don't know if I would call it journaling, but I guess it is. But that's when I would journal and write things down,
Yeah.
especially if I felt like I needed to change my thinking process. Right? Maybe I'm
Hmm.
thinking a little bit too negatively today. So let
Hmm.
me let me write down the things that I'm grateful for.
Hmm.
Let me
Oh, that's good.
write down the things that's working in my life.
Yeah.
So is that
Yeah.
journaling? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think writing anything down is good. And I think
Mhm,
you mentioned acknowledgement and, realizing a certain feeling. I think that's always important too, is to
mhm,
acknowledge something that you're feeling, can definitely help,
mhm.
can help you get onto the right path for sure. Um, so your story reminds readers that transformation is possible. What are some of the practical tools or mindset shifts you share in the book to help others do the same thing?
Well, I mentioned one already. One of the things that a person can do is to recognize their worth and say, I matter, you know, and to let go of the noise on the outside of themselves. Because we've been conditioned to, well, we've all been conditioned in one way or another to think that what we think doesn't matter as long as we follow the program, right?
Mm,
So we don't know what our inner voice is. And when we do hear it, it's usually a whisper and then we ignore it,
mm,
right?
mhm,
So once we start listening to that little voice inside of us that say, I matter, but then the circumstances around us say, well, no, you don't. So
mm,
get with the program.
mhm.
So I
Yeah.
talk about how to do that, how
Okay.
to start
How to do it.
listening to that little voice in your head that lets you know. I call it the unconditioned, not the unconditioned. Yeah, the unadulterated voice, the unconditioned
Okay.
voice.
Hmm.
That's the smart voice. In the book,
Hmm.
I call it. Some people call it God. Some people call it your smart voice. So
Smart voice. I like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
because
when I don't listen to that voice, I said, wow, I should have listened to my first mind. And it was that little nudging that told me to do a particular thing. That's my smart voice.
yeah. I like the way you lay out in your book how to listen to the smart voice and, really because I feel like a lot of people my the first thing I think of is just denial. Some people are just in denial about certain things and, they're too scared to listen to that inner voice and
Yeah.
having the courage to really, start listening to the smart voice, I think is great and I think it's great that you teach people how to do that. And so how is your book laid out, or what journey can readers expect to be on when going through your book?
Well, as you know, it's not in any chronological order.
Mhm.
It's um it's a collection. of
Okay.
stories, right? And I think I titled them in alphabetical order or something like that. So there's no particular order that they're in, but virtually after every story, there's a section that's called "Here's the Point." So that the "Here's the Point" section will help you to see the relevance of the story, the life lesson, and how you can obtain happiness, notwithstanding the
Mm-hmm.
circumstance, so
And are
that
they
they can.
okay? And are they stories that are based off of your life and experiences where readers can, pick things from your story that they can relate to?
Well, absolutely. I think the book is conversational. If
Mm-hmm.
not conversational, it's you will feel like I'm speaking to you because there's a lot of we and you and us,
Mm-hmm.
So they'll definitely feel like they can relate to me. And even if they haven't been through the same circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that they can find something in my stories that can help.
And is that something that you wanted to have in your story or your book to go a certain way from the beginning about having it being very like first person and very like conversational, like we and they and us and you and me?
Well, I've always wanted to talk to the person. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the idea, and that's how I wrote. So when you're reading, you'll feel like I'm speaking to you because I am speaking to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking to Emma. I'm speaking to the next reader and the next reader, and then you just follow right along with me, and it's like we're together, in
Mm-hmm.
the experience. So, yes, it's a very emotional book. It's emotional and intellectual too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. And what makes your book different from other wellness and life transformation guides?
Well, it's essentially a memoir slash wellness book. And I think, even though I say, because it's true, that is very some relatable stories, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people have the same story, they just tell it differently.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few unique episodes in there that I think people will find interesting.
Okay, very cool. And writing about you said it's an emotional book as well. Writing about personal, pain can be both healing and difficult. What was the most challenging part of maybe revisiting your past and writing this memoir?
Well, one of the difficult parts was deciding what I was going to share with the world, right?
Oh, okay.
But once I made that decision, oh, Miss Emma, it was so liberating. It was like, okay, there it is, right? And there might be people who may say, wow, she did that, or she said that, or that happened to her. But you know what? That's okay because I don't live in my past. I stand on my past,
Mhm,
okay? And I use my past to serve myself and to
mhm.
serve other people. And that's the whole point. It's all about helping other people. I say often, wow, whoosh. At a certain time of my life, I had read something like this. A lot of
Yeah,
things
I think you wish
happened.
you had this.
So that was one difficult part. And of course, having to revisit some painful memories, and that wasn't easy, but you know what? It was necessary and part of the healing practice. Let me just say this. I don't know how if you're like a movie person or anything like that, but I love Diane Keaton, right? And
Me
she was in a
too.
movie with, yeah, okay, she was in a movie with Jack Nicholson. I don't remember the name of the movie,
Something's gotta
but she's
give.
like, I don't know the name. Sounds familiar though. Jack Nicholson, and they were in a relationship,
Yeah,
right?
I think it's
And
something's gotta give.
but I don't know because she was in so many movies, but in this particular movie, she was like an older woman and he was a playboy,
Yep,
and
that's
he
it.
didn't want to settle down, right? So he broke her heart essentially, right? After she allowed
Yep.
herself to fall in love and blah blah blah. So he broke her heart because he was found himself getting too serious. So she wrote a play, right, about their relationship. And I just remember her sitting at the computer and she was writing the story about how they was together and broke up. And Diane Keaton, she was she was writing, she was typing, and while she was typing about their life together, she would go like this, oh,
He was feeling
and
it.
it's pretty funny. It's funny in the movie. But I say that to say, it just reminds me when you asked me that. But that's what it was like for me. I mean, it wasn't as dramatic as Diane Keaton was in the movie, but I pretty much cried. Not the, no, that's not true. In the beginning, it was pretty mechanical. As I was writing, I was like, wow, people are going to get a lot from this story, right? Because I was detached. But somewhere in the middle, I was no longer able to detach myself. And I thought, this happened to me. All of these things, it happened to me. And so, like Diane Keaton, I would type and the floodgates open because I was
Mhm.
no longer able to compartmentalize that part of the journey.
Mhm.
So that's what it was like. And I welcomed it. And not only did I welcome it, I leaned into it. And I
Mhm.
welcomed the tears of pain and joy, right?
Mhm.
Because I knew, see, in the past, I wouldn't have done that. I just would have made a stupid decision just to make the pain go away.
Yeah.
But after a while, it became a soft pain. And you know what? Maybe that particular pain may never go away. But I learned that you can live with sad things, but you don't have to live sadly. So
Mm.
having sad things happen to you, I mean, like you can lose a loved one from 10 years ago and still cry about that situation. So you can be happy and that can coexist. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
totally. Mhm.
So while I'm writing and the tears are coming, they're just coming. And and at the same time, I know that this is the process, right? It's all part of it. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
just leaned into it and let it happen, let it flow through me instead
Mhm.
of letting it stay dormant and take up residence inside me. And that's
Mhm.
rather is tears of joy and pain, you know,
Mhm. Yeah.
just let, and that's all part of the healing process. So as
Yeah.
difficult as it was, yeah. So I just, it's emotional just thinking about it. But you know, some things will never go away, you
Yeah.
know.
True.
But the upside is, regardless of what happened in your past, the pain, the triumph of going from hell to happiness is greater. It's
Mhm.
greater. And it's so rewarding. And then you develop a quiet strength, and it lets you know, like, yeah, I'm all right. This is good, you know?
Was it so your writing routine was it every day that you were writing or was there times where you felt like you needed to like step back and maybe not write on a particular day or were you pretty focused on writing it and how was that for you since this was such a emotional, and healing
Mm-hmm.
process for you?
It's interesting that you asked me that because I didn't have a schedule. I just went purely on inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like my fingers would just move all on their own. A thought would come in my head, and next thing you know, I'm just typing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like, okay, I'll do this once a week, or I'll do, maybe you can do that with other books or with other authors, but for me, that's how it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was purely, and sometimes I can write every day and then I can let it sit on the shelf. And like
Mm-hmm.
they say, life kept lifing, and which afforded me more lessons, right? And I was able to revisit and record more struggles and more antidotes, and
Mm-hmm.
which I believe the book actually grew with me, which makes Ancient
Okay.
Time even more rich, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And so your book mentions that, it empowers readers to tackle their own difficulties. What's like one message or takeaway you hope sticks with them long after they finish reading it?
I want them to know that they're not alone, and I want them to know that it's not just possible, it's probable, it's very likely that they too, and whatever their circumstances is, can go from hell-like circumstances and have their own journey to their path of happiness.
Mhm.
It's possible. And they can have that hope. They can have that
And
reality.
okay, yeah. And so for listeners who may be feeling tired of their own struggles right now, what's one small step that they can take today toward a better and more hopeful future?
Is to know that regardless of what you've done or what's been done to you, you are worthy of happiness. You are born to be happiness. No one is born to be miserable.
Hmm.
That's about circumstances and other people's opinions and
Hmm.
etc. So
True.
once you come to terms with that, the rest, it will fall in line. Now, I'm not saying it's simple. It's very simple, right? And the tools, they're free. It's not easy. It's not always easy, right? So the best things usually are not easy. But
Hmm.
it's super doable and you're worth it. My readers are worth it.
Hmm.
I believe everyone is worth it and they just have to believe that. And
Hmm.
once you believe that, not just believe it, but have a knowing that,
Hmm.
yeah, that was then, this is now.
Hmm. And as I mentioned in your introduction, I mentioned that you have published children's books as well, right?
Yes, ma'am. I have.
Okay.
It's
And
called The Dewavry Way. It's a series.
oh,
And
cute.
I have about currently I have about 4 or 5 books in the Dewavry Way series. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's fun and it's about my family dynamic when my children were younger, right? Because
Okay.
they're all adults now. They're in their 30s at the moment. But I also use the Dewavry Way as a way to help children build character
Mm-hmm.
and find happiness. And it's entertaining as well. So they're very
Hmm.
wholesome books. And on my website, you can find all my books at CynthiaDewindt.com. And I also have a trailer on my website for Ancient
Oh,
to get
fun.
you ready for Ain't You Tight? How to
Okay.
the happiness. So yeah, and I'm excited because for my children's book, I have another book coming out in that collection, the Wavery Way
Hmm.
collection. Is called the Wavery Way, the talent show. So that's coming out soon.
Oh, nice. And
Mhm.
so, how is it writing your children's books versus this guide slash memoir? What was your writing process like for different for both?
That's a great question. And you know what? They're very similar. I
Really?
don't say to myself, "Oh, it's time for me to write a new children's book." No, I have the same way. See, I don't believe I am someone who is very imaginative. So these stories come from real life experiences. So it
Mhm.
just flows right out of me because it's just a matter of me just remembering
Your
something.
life. Yeah.
And when I talked about Ain't You Tired and how that was emotionally healing for me with the tears, well, with the Dewavry Way series, the book that's coming out now is called The Talent Show, right? That's going to be out maybe like another month from now. When
Mhm.
I was writing that, I just kept crying and crying and crying because this particular memory, I was so fond of it because it was such a joyous time. So it's the same process as far as like just being inspired and
Hmm.
you know. So yeah.
And when did you start writing Ain't You Tired? And how long did it take you to complete it?
Ain't you tired? That was years.
Really?
Years and years and years. So years.
Yeah.
you know. So like I said, I would let it sit on the shelf and then revisit it. And then
Hmm.
finally, and sometimes you have to say, okay, I'm done. Because
Yeah.
it's always ways to improve a book. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? You'll always find something wrong with it or something you think could be better, but you have to just decide, okay, it's done.
It's done. Yeah. And how did you prepare yourself for publishing it? Did you have that same mindset, or was it pretty easy to feel like, okay, I can publish it and it'll be out there, for the world to see?
Well, to me, I look at the bigger picture, you know, and there might be people who would say, well, that's so private. How could you talk about that? And to them, I would say, well, don't write your own memoir then. That has
Yeah.
nothing to do with it.
It's just an opinion. Like,
So
right.
I'm not worried about the people who may judge me. My most concern is how many people I can help.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's all I care about.
Yeah.
Because anyway, if you're judging me, clearly, you need to read Ain't You Tight?
Yeah. It says more
Because I
about
talk about
them
that.
than you, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Looking back, is there a part of your book that left a deep impression on you as you were writing it?
What impression I was left that was most memorable for me was when I finished. And I
Mm,
was able to dedicate my book to my former enemies and to truly forgive them and to truly wish them well. That was the deepest part for me. And it was part of the journey and the healing process too. And
yeah.
when I was able to do that, to say that and to mean that, that was the most euphoric feeling, the most freeing
Yeah.
feeling. Because of course, by now, the forgiveness is all about you and not the other person, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, that was the deepest part for me.
Wow. And what was it like receiving your book in the mail for the first time?
Well, I'm not new to this, but every book, it just feels great, you
Yeah.
know, because I've been writing children's book for a while. But
Hmm.
when I received Ain't You Tired in the mail, it was very emotional. It's
Hmm.
like, wow, it's out there,
Hmm.
and hopefully it'll inspire millions. But if it
Yeah.
inspires a few, you know, well done.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the nicest feedback or review you've received about your book so far?
From a coworker.
Oh, nice.
I'm the type of person that I have a tendency to separate my personal life from my 9 to 5, as it were. And
Hmm.
not everybody is like that. But this particular coworker, she would come to work and she would complain about, her life. Some people do that and their struggles they went through in the past and etc.
Yeah.
And that's fine. She needs to get it out. So I gave her my book. And a couple of days later, she thanked me and she said it came at the perfect time. And she's going to
Oh.
use my strategies. And she was just so grateful. Some people become, they fan out. Wow, you wrote a book. But after you get over that
Yeah.
and you actually read the content, it's like, wow, thank you. You know.
Oh.
So I think that was pretty special. And that's the reaction I want to
Yeah.
be able to hear that, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah.
I get it. I went through something similar, not particularly the same thing, but this helped me. And I'm
Hmm.
gonna use what you said to benefit me
Do
because
you,
I'm being tired.
yeah. Do you feel like you've seen like positive changes in your coworker ever since she or they
Well,
read the
she's
book?
not a coworker anymore. She
Oh,
moved
okay. Okay.
and now we're not in touch, but yeah,
Okay. But
she
at the
was,
time it impacted her and
yeah,
everything. That's
yeah.
great. Cool. Nice. That's always a good feeling. Um, what has family and friends thought about your book?
Well, see, the thing about a memoir, right? There's always going to be people who think, wow, you're telling our story, but I'm telling my story, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So not everyone is going to be supportive in your family. But what I would say is the people who matter the most fully support the
For sure.
fact that I needed to tell my story and to
Hmm.
do so in a way that is going to help other people. And I have
Hmm.
their full support.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so true. Um,
Yeah.
so who did you write this book for? And what was like the age range of readers you had in mind for this book, if any?
Hmm. I think probably 14 and up.
Oh, okay. I like
14 and up.
that. Nice.
14, yeah.
Okay. And what advice would you give to a writer working on their first book?
For someone working on their first book, I would say Well, I just know about, my real life experiences, and that's what I put in my books.
Yeah.
So I would say write with honesty,
Mm.
write with passion, and to be patient with yourself. And to remember that, and I talk about this in Ain't You Tired too. So it applies to this, to pay attention to the journey,
Mm.
right? The finished book is great. It's the reward, but equally as rewarding is the writing process. It's
Mm.
because that's where your weaknesses get strengthened. That's where you build your muscles. And that's where your remaking comes as an artist, as an author, or whatever it is that you're going through in life. Because that's what you're ultimately going to look at when you go back and say, wow, I did that, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So you can get that diploma or you can write that book and it can be published, but it's what you went through to get there. It's the journey. It's what's going to help you when life brings its monkey wrenches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever the next chapter is, it's the journey. Is what's going to help you to
I
get
love that.
there. So that's what I would say. Be patient and pay
Yeah.
attention to the journey, and don't try to rush and say, "Oh, I don't want to go through this," or whatever the case may be. Like what I was telling you, how I would cry and I lean into it. Don't
Mm-hmm.
think, "Oh no, I can't do this." Just lean into it. Just lean
Mm-hmm.
in and
Yeah.
let it flow through you. So that's the advice I would give to someone who's writing their first book, is to write with honesty, passion, and to be patient with themselves.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Um, what are your personal and professional, or rather book goals for the rest of the year?
Okay, well, the year's almost up,
I
but
know. Or maybe for the start of next year that you're hoping for.
well, a few things.
Mm-hmm.
We recently ran a full-page ad in Publishers Weekly with
Fun.
50,000 impressions on their website, so I'm super excited about
Oh,
that. And
awesome.
um, Ain't You Tired? How I Escape Hell to Happiness will be available in audiobook in a few months. Early,
Ooh.
so I'm super excited about that. And I also told you about, as far as the Dewavry Way series, my children's book, the new addition to that will be coming out in a month or so.
Ooh. Is that also on Ex Libris or is that through a
Yes,
different?
ma'am.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
okay, cool. Nice. Okay.
Everything is receivers.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Cynthia, for joining me today and for publishing, your personal story. I can imagine a lot of people relating to this and,
Mm,
relating to this struggle and letting them
mm.
know that there are people like, yourself there to help them. So, thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention, or leave us with today before we go?
Well, I'd like to thank you for having me.
Oh.
And for anyone watching, I would like to say that you can find all my books on my website, cynthiadewindt.com. And as far as the children's books are concerned, there's a description of all the books and it's beautifully illustrated. So, whether you are a parent who's
Mm.
looking for wholesome books for their children to build character, to have fun, and to find happiness, or rather you are a person who's going through some struggles, I believe that Ain't You Tired? In my books, you can find something that will help you.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this interview. I appreciate your time and we wish you the best of luck with your book and future books.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you out there wish to purchase any or all of Cynthia's books, especially Ain't You Tired, go to xlibris.com to pick up her books as well. We have an online bookstore that you can purchase directly through. They also are available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.